What is going on with Wilder Girls? Why do you compare so many books to Wilder Girls? I thought you were a trans man. Why are you reading lesbian books? Because, dear viewer, this was recommended by C.G. Drews. This was recommended by people who have read C.G. Drews' Don't Let the Forest In, and honestly, I cried. I cried, and you know what? I know this is a book about lesbians, but that is not the main plot. That is not the main plot. In fact, when it came up, it was just merely a little bit of a mention that it was a book about it was like a brief mention, you know. That's how I like my romance novels. Call me strange for that. I like my romance novels when it's just something that's part of the world, it's something people understand is a thing, but no one's too bothered about it because they had bigger issues than whether they were lesbian or not. You know what the bigger issues were? The fact that there is a virus consuming this entire island and slowly killing off this school of girls, and it is horrifying. There is so much heartbreak in this book. I don't even know where to begin with the tea with this one. I don't even know where to begin. Because if you are someone like me who grew up with games like Resident Evil, if you've ever played Resident Evil or you know about the world of Resident Evil, you need to pick this up. You need to be reading this because it was a dystopian horror unlike anything I've ever read, and I want to find more books like this. I don't care if it is straight or gay or queer. I just want more books like this. And so if I could get more recommendations like Rory Power's Wilder Girls, I would be very, very happy. Because in this book, so much happens. There is so much tea, there is so much drama, there is so much going on that I don't even know where to start this review. I'm going to put this book down because I'm going to use my hands and I don't want to drop that book. And also the flash being reflected on my camera is slightly annoying me. But Rory Power's Wilder Girls absolutely tore a hole in my heart, and I don't know how to address this because it is a book about change, it's a book about survival, and I'm not a fan of change. But I grew with these characters. This is a book that I had to take many breaks while reading because these characters were going through hit me hard in the chest. It hit me on a level where I was like, my girls are dying. But also, there's one thing I do also want to address about Wilder Girls by Rory Power is that there are elements in it of seizures which I was openly discussed, and I don't see seizures being something that's in a lot of books. But as someone who is a long-term, who is going to have epilepsy for the rest of my life, it is a fact of life I cannot get rid of. I really appreciate how Rory Power describes the seizures, the struggles, the damage, how it impacts the people around you, how it impacts the person, the sort of damage it can do to your face, to your tongue, to your body, to your muscles, to your nerves. All of that being addressed in a book. I know it wasn't specifically phrased as epilepsy, and I know that there are other medical conditions where seizures can be caused, and anyone can be hit with a seizure at any point for any given reason. The way that it was represented in this book was magnificent. Now, obviously, it's not something we necessarily want. Like, I wouldn't call having a seizure magnificent. In fact, it's a horrific experience. But I appreciate how Rory did not just gloss over the fact. They addressed it well. And for those of you who don't know, and if you do enjoy the book Wilder Girls, there is a free 0.5 book that you can get online, and if you want to make a donation when you buy the book, it's like it's set before this book, right? It's set before everything goes wrong, before these girls are fighting for their lives, before they have to fight each other, before they have to fight the school, before they have to learn how to use a gun, before they have so many disabilities are exposed in this book, which honestly, you'd be surprised how many dystopian books do not describe disabilities. If you are living in a dystopian world and you are somehow fit as a fiddle, you have either done something completely right or the book is wrong. Because quite frankly, in a dystopian future where there's some sad characters who pass because they can't get their medication, and it just goes into detail about that. And one thing I appreciate about this book is it's a very realistic view of how the government would handle a situation like this. And a lot of people, I know the government will always support us. Because, you know, I'm in the UK and a lot of people here think that the government are always going to support people who are disabled. They don't. The NHS is on its knees, you know. It's not the NHS's fault, it's literally the government like letting the disabled fall. And we see that in real time in this book, and it is absolutely horrific. And I'm trying not to give away too much about this book, but you need to have this on your radar, because not only does it describe the horrors of like this virus which is spreading across this island and taking girls, and no one seems to know how to stop it. If you were a fan of C.G. Drew's Don't Let the Forest In, and you've not read this book, you need to pick it up, because whilst they are not the same, there's quite a few similarities that I think a lot of people who will appreciate in this book. I really like how, so Don't Let the Forest In, I was kind of reading this book and being like, yeah, please don't let the forest in, do not let it into the school. Do not let it into this school. It gets let into the school. I feel like that's kind of not really a spoiler because it's the whole point of the book. They told us to wait and stay alive. And it's about the mental struggle of these 3 specific girls who are like really tight-knit. They're in a close friend group. But it also talks about how this virus has picked off other girls, and there's a lot of side characters. And like, as someone who has seen and struggled with various disabilities my entire life, I was intrigued and invested with how well wrote a lot of the hospital scenes were, the ward scenes, how a lot of different disabilities were described. If you are like, it's not often I find a book where there's diabetes are also described. So this has diabetic representation, but trigger warning, because it's not going to be what you think. I would have loved as well if all the girls could have survived. You know, I was cheering on with the girls, like, you're gonna get out, you're gonna survive, it's gonna be great. There is some POV changes in this as well, it goes back and forth, and just to give you a little bit of information about the progression of this virus. Oh, this book is not for the weak. I want to reread it, do not get me wrong. I borrowed this from my library just so I could like do this video because I forgot to do it initially, but I don't think I could read this book and not break down crying again. So this book did. I was crying in so many of these scenes because a lot of the scenes were described in a way that I know a lot of people face while the virus itself isn't real. A lot of the disability struggles that were described in this book are what a lot of people face in the real world, and it is horrifying. We might not have this virus that is like going through like our home that is killing everyone off, but this has corruption that goes beyond the forest. This has corruption within the government. This talks about corruption within society, corruption within the people who are closest to us. I think everyone needs to have this on their to be read list, because quite frankly, there is a reason this won an award. There is a real reason. And if you enjoy this book, there is a short story, like I said, you can get for free online. Just literally search Wilder Girls and it's in one of the top 5 results. I will put a link down when this video goes up, but Rory Power, you are one of my new favourite authors. C.G. Drew's and Rory Power are carrying me this year in terms of books that I enjoy reading. Have you read this book? What were your thoughts? And are you likely to pick this up? Now, I was very fortunate to get this in my library. You could probably get this in your library if your library does not have it in, because again, it's not an independent published one. It's quite an old book, but it's also quite a popular one. But it's not one that I see us talking about on BookTube that often, hence this video. This is a book from 2012, right? 2012. That is quite an old book. So the edition there is an ebook. There's an ebook you can get. There's also an audiobook. I don't know anything about them because I've not checked them out myself. But again, it's just one of those books. It's made for young adults. But honestly, young adult definitely. It's gory. There's horror. There's so many there's so many plot twists in this, man. But yeah, overall, this was a 5-star read for me. It's one of my favourites, and I highly recommend this. See you guys in the next one. Bye.